Hello and welcome to Business 7. My name is Jo Marie Duddy. Next to me, my colleague on the financial desk is...
Philip Azusikwe.
Hi Philip, great to have you in the studio again. We have it's been a very busy week. Let's first start with that. The budget results season is coming up. So we've got some very interesting interviews in tonight's program. What is yours?
We'll be talking about income tax. The amendments are made on the income tax. So we'll be joined by Warren Kozonguizi to put more things into perspective.
Great. And I will be talking to Johan Maass. He is the Chief Financial Officer of the Capricorn Group, who they've just released their latest interim results. Please stay tuned.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
Joining us in the studio is the Chief Financial Officer of the Capricorn Group, Johan Maass. Johan, thank you very much for joining us and welcome.
Good morning, thank you very much. It's nice to be back.
To be back indeed, because we did have you here not too long ago, and then I also had to say congratulations, because the analysts are once again very impressed with what Capricorn has brought to the table in terms of financial results. One of the analysts in particular used the word that he's surprised at the group's resilience. So if we can take a quick look at some of the financials, and you can take us through the highlights.
Thank you, I'll do so. Yeah, so just looking at the highlights, so this is now for the 6 months that has passed for the 6 months in the 31st of December 2022. So yeah, I think overall a very good set of results, with profit after tax increasing by 20.3% to just shy of 700 million for the 6 months. And yeah, I'm also glad to say that at least also translated into a better dividend to our shareholders as well. The dividends increasing by 21.9% to 39 cents per share. But I do believe that this 6 months set of results, it's really an indication as well of how the country is doing better post-COVID. You know, normally when your banking sector does well, it's because our clients are doing well.
Yes, exactly. That's some of the importance of listed companies releasing their results, I always say, because that is a very good indication of the state of the economy. And indeed, as you say, things are looking better. If we can take a look at the next slide.
Yeah, so what we wanted to highlight here is really the trends.
Which is very important. It's not a standalone figure. Exactly.
And then just looking at where we were back in December 2019, now that is a very important column, because that is pre-COVID, yes, right? And just looking at December 2020, the significant downturn in all of the numbers that you can see on screen there. And then going back, and then coming to December 2022, where we are surpassing not only the COVID impacted period of December 2020, but also December 2019 as well, in all of the numbers that you can see on the screen there. And specifically, also not only doing better, but looking at our capital percentage, which was 14.6% back in December 2019, is now currently at 16.6%, meaning that we also have less risk in that space than we did pre-COVID, even when things were actually still going very well from that perspective.
The slide I'd really like to talk about, we're going to bring that up now, because that is an indication of what a good set of financial results mean for the man in the street. If we can have that slide, please.
Yeah, so this is what we try to show is what value we've actually added to the country, not only to the bank and the group itself, but also how the value that we created has been shared by all of our stakeholders. So our staff members shared in, so we created $2.1 billion worth of value, of which our staff members shared in 644 million of that. Our suppliers payments that we made was about 312 million. And maybe just to note on that point, all of our costing, we spend just south of 90% of our total cost is spent in the countries which we are.
Precisely, so that's local suppliers.
It is stimulating the local suppliers as well. Not, and which is actually a very difficult thing to do, considering that we are a bank mainly, and banks are quite tech,
yes, of course.
Tech-driven these days, and a lot of those skills and the services and licenses is not available here. So, which to get to that just shy of 90% local spending is actually very good, considering the amount of external stuff that we have to take in.
Well done indeed. More good news. If we can get that slide back so that we can just have a look at some of the other figures. Yes.
Yeah. So then we paid about 411 million in taxes and other type of levies, which also benefits the country.
Of course, because
directly.
We know that most of it goes to operational expenditure, but a lot of that tax also flows through to your development budget, and that's roads and hospitals and things like that the government then builds.
That is correct. We've also spent about just shy of 9 million in the community, so that's specifically on our CSR type of projects. And then, our shareholders shared in about 206 million. So that comes from the final dividend of 40 cents per share that we have declared in September. So the current 39 cents that we're going to be paying out on the 30th of March is more or less in that same
Before we get to that last number, and just coming back to your ordinary shareholders, I always find that very important to explain to the layman that that really means the man in the street, because your shareholders, a lot of them are Namibian pension funds.
Yes. So, so almost 100% of our shareholders are local. There are a few foreigners, but we've got a big local base. With the GIPF actually being the largest pension fund that owns about 26% of Capricorn shares. And not only them, there are a lot of pension funds that do own Capricorn shares. So it really benefits everybody. If you have a pension fund, most likely you do own a bit of Capricorn. Yeah,
that is great news. That last number, I don't know how much you'll be able to elaborate on that, but I mean, that is more than $500 million that Capricorn has retained for a future expansion. You are a rather active group when it comes to expansion. Can you just give us a little glimpse into what we can expect this year?
Yeah. So look, we can't pay out 100% of what we do get in, because we need to because we need to keep some to grow the business. So we do that both inside where we are currently at. So for example, a large chunk of this is actually being spent currently inside Bank Windhoek, where we are undergoing a big digitization drive. And you would notice that actually we got our first branch of the future up and running in Marua Mall. So you can go and have a look there to see just how much we see the banking of the future actually going to change. Yes. And as part of that specific branch, there is a 24/7 section where you can go in any time of day or night and do a lot of banking services that you had to previously go into the branch. We have a self-service kiosk there where there's a lot of stuff that you can actually do there. So that's actually where a large chunk of this retainment is going. So it's not to benefit only the bank, but it does benefit our customers as well.
Basically plying back into your clients and that way securing your position in the market. Overall, what would you have, or what would you attribute the great performance that we have seen for the past 6 months?
Well, like I mentioned, I do believe that the country is doing better. And that does translate into a better banking sector. But also, I think it is the commitment of the management and staff of the whole group, trying to ensure that the group does remain successful and contributing to the positive change that we are seeing inside the country.
Johan, it is always a pleasure to have you in the studio. No doubt you'll be back within 6 months, I hope with even more impressive figures to explain to us. Thank you very much, and the best for your second half here.
Thank you very much.
Every day, you make choices that make you legendary. Journey together with us on the path to securing your legacy as a member of the League of Legends. With the Select Platinum Bundle Fee Premium Bank offering, you will access tools that will enable you to thrive. If you earn 850,000 Namibian dollars per annum or more, you can apply for this offering today via bankvinted.com.na for only 447 Namibian dollars per month. Bank Vinted, a member of Capricorn Group.
The Ministry of Finance recently announced some amendments in the Income Act. To put things into perspective, I'm joined by Kozonguizi. He's the head of sales, distribution and marketing at Liberty Life Namibia. Welcome to the studio, Warren.
Thank you, Philip.
First things first, please give us a big background of these amendments.
Okay, so the amendment has actually been something that has been in waiting since Honorable the now Minister of Agriculture was in the position of Minister of Finance. The bill is to ensure that savings towards retirement benefits as well as educational type of benefits now have been increased. So what they've actually then done is they've increased the tax deductibility from 40,000 to 150,000 effective this year, 2023. So it's a great one for all of the Namibian population that is currently employed, gainfully employed, or possibly has a retirement annuity. So it's quite an exciting time for us in the retirement space.
Yeah. So what does these deductions, the new deductions, what impact do they have on pension policies and the education policies for students and pensioners?
Okay, so previously under the previous regime, that is post 2023 or that financial tax year, you could only deduct up to 40,000 in terms of your tax deductibility for any educational, retirement annuity or pension savings. Now that has been increased to 150. What that means for the layman on the street is that, say if you take a basic example, on an annual basis you earn about 500,000. That deductibility would then have been deducted in terms of 40,000 would be deducted from that, from your gross income, meaning that the 160,000 would be the amount that the taxman would have, deducted for you to be able to pay tax. That would mean that for that annual year, your tax payment would be about 103,800. What that means now is, with the increase to 150, now the amount that the taxman deducts you has of course increased. It has then gone from that 460 to now 350. So now that what you actually tax on an annual period would now be about 73,000. So of course that's a big amount in terms of disposable income that's available to the man on the street. Of course, that we would like to urge everyone to look at how do you do additional savings towards your retirement. But ultimately as a nation, it means that the savings pool will of course now increase, right? And with savings in terms of pension and education type products increasing, it means that we have more capital actually to be able to do these infrastructure development and these important developments that we want as a nation.
So does the amount of tax now that you save depends on your tax bracket?
So of course, it's always based on your tax bracket. Normal tax brackets do apply. As we know, it is anything over 50,000 and that it is capped at about 1.5 million in terms of the tax. So the tax bracket remain the same. It's just the deductibility that now has increased for individuals that are saving towards retirement.
Yeah. So as we draw closer to our discussion, why is paying tax such a very crucial obligation, and what role does it? How does it benefit the economy?
Yeah, well, I've asked myself as a youngster. Now I'm not young anymore, but as a youngster, I always ask myself that a large amount that goes, towards tax in an annual period or a monthly period, and what's it being used for? So, as individuals and patriotic individuals to a nation, it's important that we pay tax because we do understand it's how we ensure that our civil servants are taken care of, how we ensure that the roads that we drive on a daily basis are being maintained, our pensioners are taken care of, our police force, our army, and the likes. So it's to ensure that the government has an adequate amount of funds available to ensure the livelihoods of all of the Namibians. So it is quite a nice and patriotic thing as an individual being gainfully employed or being part of an employment type of nation, that you actually are helping your fellow Namibian by ensuring that tax is paid.
Yeah. Warren, any final words from you?
And just in terms of final words, I would urge all of the Namibians to please relook their savings in terms of, yes, now there's a large portion of disposable income that's coming your way. Please don't spend it recklessly. Look at when you do retire, how you'd like to retire, and what measurements you're putting in place to ensure that you actually get there, right? We work on average about 40 years of our lives. We wouldn't want to now, when we start retiring, having to think about going back into the employment industry or looking at how we now downscale our lives. So it's important to sit with your financial advisor, do make a plan of what you'll be saving on a monthly basis, do make a plan of what you'll be putting away for your kids in terms of education, because also that is allowed in terms of the tax deductibility. But ultimately, let's be responsible as individuals, but also responsible to our society.
Warren, thank you for your time and for sharing your expertise.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much to FNB for this opportunity. Thank you so much to FNB. What an experience. I never got to do shopping in 5 minutes, but look at all this.
And that's all from me and Philippus this week on Business 7. We hope you enjoyed the program. We will be back next week, same place, same time. But as we often do, we're playing out with the business highlights in Africa as supplied to us by Reuters. Until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Here are 5 business stories making headlines in sub-Saharan Africa this week. Investors have welcomed South African government plans to take on some 60% of Eskom's debt, saying it could pave the way for a sustainable future. The struggling state-owned utility has been implementing South Africa's worst power outages on record. On Thursday, Eskom also named CFO Caleb Kassim as interim CEO, following the departure of Andre de Ruyter. Relatives of 346 people killed in 2 Boeing 737 MAX crashes in Ethiopia and Indonesia have appealed a US judge's rejection of their bid to prosecute the plane maker. Earlier this month, the judge ruled he did not have authority to grant the relatives' requests to reopen or dismiss a deferred prosecution agreement. It gives Boeing immunity from criminal prosecution on fraud conspiracy charges related to the plane's flawed design. Boeing declined to comment. Someone else submitting an appeal is Facebook parent company Meta. It's filed paperwork challenging a Kenyan court ruling that said the company could be sued in the East African country. Meta is arguing that the court does not have jurisdiction in the case brought by a former content moderator alleging poor working conditions. A new investment fund with nearly $93 million will finance solar power production across Africa, French fund manager Green Invest and investment advisor Ecosys Invest said on Friday. A statement said the Afri Green Debt Impact Fund would focus on West and Central Africa, providing direct lending and asset-based debt facilities. And finally, Nigerians head to the polls on Saturday to elect a new president and parliament. Investors and analysts say their top concerns are multiple exchange rates, widespread insecurity, and low oil production due to massive crude theft, as well as soaring fuel subsidy costs that are driving up debt. In the darkness of a power cut, Faiza Caswell stitches by candlelight. Amid South Africa's worst ever power crisis, her home city Cape Town is looking for ways to insulate itself against rolling blackouts by state utility Eskom. But for the time being, like the majority of South Africans, she's had to cope with up to 10 hours a day without electricity, known locally as load shedding.
Due to the load shedding, I had to cut a lot of my clients. I couldn't take a lot of work, so it was just half, but I never disappoint them. So I always try to finish up where I stopped.
Cape Town's Executive Director for Energy, Kadri Nasiep, says they're aiming to halve power cuts for the tourist city's residents by 2026.
Ultimately, we would look at reducing as much of our imports from Eskom as we could.
Like other cities across the country, Cape Town is looking to private suppliers. It plans to procure 500 megawatts from them by 2026, roughly a third of the city's annual power needs. Officials are also looking at offering households monetary incentives to save power during peak demand. Nasiep said the city was taking steps towards total energy independence from Eskom beyond 2030. The debt-laden utility said earlier this month that it was only able to supply 56.6% of the power needed nationally in the 2022 to 2023 financial year. President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared a state of disaster over the energy crunch, which is seen wiping as much as 2 percentage points off economic growth this year. Here's Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis.
You can't grow an economy without power. So we would not be having this discussion as a city if Eskom was working, if the state monopoly was working. But like many state monopolies around the world, it is not working. It is very ineffective. It has not invested adequately. It is very bloated.
Cape Town issued a 200 megawatt solar energy tender last year. It expects to follow that up with another for up to 300 megawatts of battery storage in the next few weeks. Hill-Lewis said Cape Town also plans to change energy policy to allow households and businesses that produce solar power to sell the excess to the city. That doesn't help Caswell, though.
A lot of people ask me to put in the solar panels, but unfortunately, as a small business, we don't make that much.
She says small businesses like hers are working hand to mouth. So while Cape Town may be pursuing a brighter future, for now, residents like her are struggling to earn a living in the dark.